The Endpoint Manager can manage the Windows, the iOS devices, the Androids, the Symbians, all of them. We have native agents for Android. We have functions that exploit the iOS MDM APIs. And then there is email-based management that works through the MS Exchange or the Lotus Traveler for all the mobile device platforms. It can perform things like application management. It can enforce security policies, password policies, encryption policies on the endpoints. It could be used by organizations to track the devices owned by the organizations so that they can be located on a map. This function can also help you to retrieve the last reported location of a lost device. It also helps organizations to provision the handheld devices with email, Wi-Fi, or VPN configuration. This makes it more and more easier for organizations to adopt the bring your own device policy. More and more people can now manage mobile devices that the users bring in. When a user loses his device, he can report that loss to the administrator, or he can use the self-service portal and simply wipe his own device through that portal. This means that even if the device is lost, at least your data can be wiped off. Apart from this, when a user is departing from the organization, the organization-specific data can be selectively wiped off. That means the user's data can stay there while the organization's data can be removed from the device when the device is deprovisioned. And lastly, a very important aspect is expense management, mobile expense management. Many users travel across countries or across different states, incurring roaming charges. Data charges while roaming are higher than your home location. Data charges while roaming abroad is even higher. Now organizations can enforce policies wherein the data or the voice usage can be restricted while roaming, or there could be a cap on the expense incurred on these kind of utilities or services. This allows more organizations to bring in predictability in the kind of expense incurred on mobile devices while they adopt a bring your own device policy. Now, bringing it all together, we saw that the endpoint manager, the Tivoli Endpoint Manager, can manage the traditional endpoints, which are the desktops and laptops, the servers. It could be Windows, Unix, or Linux servers. It can also manage specialized devices like kiosks or ATMs. It can also manage the new generation of endpoints, which is the handheld devices running the Androids or the iOS, Symbian, or Windows phone operating systems. The number of platforms is increasing quite rapidly. More and more devices, more and more platforms, as they come in, are being brought under management. Apart from the variety of devices, there's a huge number of capabilities that we provide. So things from configuration management to security configuration management to remote control to OS deployment, inventory, all these functions are available through one single console, one single solution. You can manage your all kinds of endpoints through one single system. What it brings us to is a unification of security and systems management. In organizations, traditionally, systems operations use one kind of a software, and the security operations use different tools. When these two teams come together to discuss problems or discuss deviations from security policies, they're talking about the same problem but shown in different reports. That at times becomes very difficult for the security team as well as the operations team to understand the reference of those loopholes or non-compliance items. When Endpoint Manager, Tivoli Endpoint Manager is used, the same tool, the same implementation can be used by both systems operations and the systems security management teams. That means when the results are discussed, they are all referring to the same instance of data, the same reports, the same system, and hence they can be interlinked, they can be cross-referenced, and open loopholes, open problems can be fixed much easier. Endpoint management, apart from the typical devices, is also gearing up to manage the upcoming breed of purpose-specific endpoints. We are talking about e-meters, we are talking about set-top boxes, we are talking about cars running probably a Windows phone or a Windows embedded operating system, or maybe Android, who knows. But these things are going to come surely. There is development happening as we talk. And as the number of these devices increase, we will see that the need to manage these endpoints becomes imminent. Coming to the compliance part of the story, traditionally when organizations perform the compliance activities, it is because there is some audit coming up. And when such audits come up, which happen typically quarterly or half yearly or maybe yearly, just before an external audit, an internal audit team would size up, will find out what are the loopholes, what are the missing compliance. They will submit a report, and then the IT teams will run around fixing those problems. So on your left hand side where you see the traditional compliance, there is a ramp up and then there is a slide down. The ramp up is the part where the IT teams run around fixing the problems. At the peak is where your audit is passed, everything is fine, things move on. Eventually, the configuration drifts, PCs are formatted, operating systems are updated, softwares are updated, softwares are changed, things change on the endpoint. If no one is watching it, no one is actively managing it, the compliance status starts dropping. That is where you see the slide down, the risk part of it. But again, 6 months later, there is again a compliance initiative, and again the IT team will run around fixing it. Again, the same story follows. What really is happening there is people are doing the same repetitive thing over and over again, increasing the cost of management. With Tivoli Endpoint Manager in place, you can define policies, you can define compliance standards, you can define software baselines, patch baselines, which will ensure that existing and new computers are always maintained at the baseline level. This means that when there's a new compliance, new audit coming up, the audit can start building up on the existing compliance level. They do not have to redo the whole work all over again. This is because there is an active system that keeps monitoring the compliance status, and it keeps fixing any non-compliance while the day-to-day work happens. This removes a huge load from the IT teams, and they can do more business-specific works. So what sets Tivoli Endpoint Manager apart from the rest of the solutions out there in the market? What we really have is a client-server architecture, but we have really flipped over the client-server functions. In our case, the server does not perform the processing actions. The server is actually a communication hub and a database. All the processing really happens on the client side. Each client will perform the processing for its own. It will perform the activities, come up with a result, and just simply send the result back to the server. This means two things. There is less chatter on the network, and because the endpoint agent is sitting within the computer which is being monitored and managed, the agent has much better view and control over that computer. The agent is a continuous self-assessment agent. That means it will constantly keep monitoring